Hey up everyone, and welcome back to Write Good Poetry with me, Sophie Sparham. Before we start the episode today, I just want to say a massive thanks to my friend Eva, who's taken over the editing of these videos. It has been an absolute godsend, so thank you, Eva. And also thank you to anyone who has signed up to be a Patreon so far. I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you very much. Right, so let's start the video for this week. This week I want to speak about a poet who I think is really important, not just for her poetry, but for her contribution to the civil rights movement, for her activism. You know, I just think she's a really important figure in history and someone who I couldn't do this series of videos without speaking about. So today we're going to focus on a poem by Maya Angelou. Now, Maya Angelou was an American poet. She was also a civil rights activist. Now, just to call her a poet though would be doing her a disservice really. She wrote all sorts of things. She wrote essays. I think she wrote 7 autobiographies in total. You know, she wrote plays. She wrote things for telly, and her career spanned over 50 years. So Maya Angelou was born in 1928 and she died in 2014. So, and in that time she had an amazing career. She did so much, and I just think she's such an important woman to talk about. So that's why I wanted to focus on her today. So the poem I wanted to focus on today is probably one of her most famous poems. It's called Still I Rise, and it came out in her 3rd collection of poetry, which was printed back in 1978, which is called And Still I Rise. So here's the poem. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you, while you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides. Just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bad head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise? Then I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling our bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So that was Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. It's such a powerful poem. So in general, this poem is talking about resistance, it's talking about resilience, it's talking about, you know, getting up in the face of your enemies and carrying on. Maya Angelou wrote a lot about blackness. She wrote a lot about black womanhood, and this is like a prime example of that you can see. This poem is all about standing up to your oppressor, saying, no, I don't care what you do to me. I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stay resilient, and I'm going to do my thing. And it's just such a beautiful and powerful poem. And every time I read it, I use this a lot in workshops, and every time I read it, I just find it so moving. I just think it's such a moving piece of writing. So let's break this apart a little bit more. So most of the poem uses the quatrain form, which is basically means that the stanzas are split into 4 lines, apart from the end, where the last 2 stanzas, she adds in the phrase "I rise," and it lengthens the stanzas. Now, this poem mostly uses an A-B-C-B rhyme form. However, again, the last 2 stanzas are different, but most of the poem sticks to this. What do I mean by that? So the first line, "You may write me down in history," that's A. "With your bitter, twisted lies," lies is B. "You may trod me in the very dirt," C. None of those rhyme, so they all get separate letters. "But still like dust I'll rise." So rise and lies both rhyme, so they are both B's. However, the first line, history, and the third line, dirt, do not rhyme. So they get an A and a C. I hope that makes sense. However, for this poem, the main thing that draws us into it, the most powerful thing about this poem, is the repetition that's used. And the phrase that's repeated is "I'll rise," "still I'll rise." You know, "I rise," "still I rise." Why is this effective? Why use repetition like this? Well, she's using repetition to hammer in a point that no matter what you do to this woman, she ain't standing down, man. She is not standing down. You know, "still I'll rise," "still I rise." You know, nothing you do is gonna stop me from doing what I'm doing. No matter how hard you try and bring me down, no matter whatever you do to me, I'm getting back up. And that's what I think is the most effective device of this poem. And that's what makes it so powerful, is that key use of repetition. And it's done so well, you know, so well. She also uses a lot of metaphor and simile to describe herself, and they just work so well. Now, I know a lot of people get mixed up between metaphor and simile. They're very easy to get mixed up. A simile is when you say something is like something else. So let's find an example in the text. "But still, like dust, I'll rise." So this is a simile. She's saying she's like dust. She's not saying she is dust. She's saying like dust, I'll rise. Why is this effective? Because you know when you dust the, I don't know if you dust, but you know if you dust like the side of your house or your windowsill. There we go, good example. And the dust, you know, you imagine how the dust comes up. If you wipe it or you dust it, it all just goes into the air. It goes everywhere. And that's what she's saying she's like. She's like, you know, she will rise like dust. So an example of a metaphor in the text is much further down. "I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide." So I'm a black ocean, okay? That is a metaphor because here she's saying I am the ocean. She's not saying I'm like the ocean. She's saying I am an ocean. Such a powerful metaphor. You think how powerful. Well, first you think how big an ocean is. They're blooming massive. Then you think about how powerful the sea is. The sea is just this massive, powerful force, you know, and it covers most of the earth. So that's what she's saying. She's like, I'm here. I'm an ocean. I'm large. I'm powerful. I'm not going nowhere. I'm a force of nature. Again, more example of repetition in the middle of the text. "You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise." So the repetition is you may, you may, you may. And that's also an example of the power of 3, which is a literary device that people, you know, use within their work. So having a list of 3 things or repeating a phrase 3 times, or, you know, it just gives it that emphasis. So, and all these things that this person's doing to her is horrible. Shoot me, cut me, kill me, you know, but she's not going nowhere, but still like air, I'll rise. You know, she's light like air. She's rising above it all. And also, you need air to breathe. So she's essential. She's an essential person to the world. I could go on about this poem all day, but this is just a really quick overview. So I'd be really, really interested in what you lot think about this, if you have any comments about it, what lines stuck out to you, and if there's any other poems by Maya Angelou that you enjoy to read. I really hope this video has been useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.